America, today I woke up in your lands, which I hear are my lands too. Today I wonder whether I need to become my own country, to build myself a throne of new gods. Today I rewrote the national anthem as a love song in first person. Today I am more than the ugly that tries to inhabit me, more than the hatred that steals from me. Today I am more than what tries to conquer me. Good glory. Today I'm plotting on all of America's demons. I'm juking every devil in sight. Today, I'm sharpening the blade with my teeth. I'm preparing for my own uprising. Today, I want to block America, take a mental health day from her shores. Today, I make joy my theme song. Today, I sage down all my good bones. Today, I send eviction notices to anything that doesn't honor me. Today, I take every broken thing I got and shoot dice with it. Today, I make a cake with the words, I'm built for this shit. Today, I am no better than you. I am only better than who I was. Today, I learned that blood builds countries. That the spilling of it from a woman can mean something was created or something was destroyed. Today, I choose to be born. I choose to turn the blood into red wax and make birthday candles. Today, there is no fairy tale toward healing. There is only the mud, the only worthwhile thing to build any good heaven around. There is only the work and the sweat, and it's a purge, and it's a purge, and it's a repetition. Healing is a repetition. Today, shout out to the people fighting for themselves and not knowing what the fuck you're doing. You know what the fuck you're doing. Today, let the prayer become a cipher between you and God. Today, let every blessing sound like that one good church solo in Sister Act 2. Today, grieve and grieve and grieve if you need to. Then sing your body into softer music. Today, let your whole life be evidence of the power of a good affirmation. Praise the day you said out loud, I will stop killing myself. Praise the day you said out loud, I will be selfish with my healing. Today, let your own liberation have the last dance. Today, plant a flag that calls you home. Sometimes survival is hearing every bone break and not severing the limb. Oh, America, what shall I do with you? This next poem is about the Charleston shooting, South Carolina. Dylan Roof walked into Mother Emanuel Church and murdered 9 black church members for no other reason than his own hatred of anything that didn't look like himself. I had no intention of writing about what happened. I was sort of stuck in my grief. And my brain, what it did when his name popped up is I put him sort of in this extreme white supremacist, which he is, KKK bubble in my mind, and I threw it away and said, well, I don't know anybody like that. There's nothing for me to do. I'm very uncomfortable with that. I became more uncomfortable with that sort of letting me off the hook. There's nothing for me to do. And I think we're faced with that same question. And so during this poem, which is really an open letter to white supremacy, I want you to think of the spaces and the places that you have access to every day, your classroom, your office, the dinner table, the bus ride home, when you're in the grocery store, and the comments that get made around you that you do not interrupt. See, Dylan Roof is not anomalous. We know that more than ever now. He exists on a spectrum. And he is an extreme version of white supremacy and racism. And what exists on this side of the spectrum is Dylan Roof's version of that ideology. And on this end is the microaggressions and the comments that fester. See, no one interrupted Dylan Roof's ideology along the way. And so he was just on the same train. And so while you may not know a Dylan Roof, you know someone that maybe can become that in your circle. We all do. And so think about the times you chose not to say something, no matter who you are, because we're all privileged in one kind of way. Where do you not Where is your suffering not placed? Where is the suffering of other folks where you can maybe step up? And that is what I'm faced with today. And that's what I want you to do while you're listening to this poem. I have a very, very short story. I was in South Philadelphia getting my hair cut. I take my hair very seriously. And and I had walked into a new place. I do try to give my money to black and brown businesses. I was not able to this time. That happens. And I got my hair cut by this new woman. I'm pretty sure there's 2 white women in the shop. We were talking, and she was talking about the training that she had to become a hairstylist. And Colin Kaepernick, the football player that took a knee, had just that was swimming in the national discourse, and he had just made an analogy about cosmetologists and folks that need more training, right, to hold like a makeup brush or something like that. They need more training, more hours of training than police officers need to hold a gun. And so the analogy popped into my mind, and I say, wow, that reminds me of Colin Kaepernick, and he has a really good analogy about this. And she goes, well, who's that? And I said, he's the football player, so-and-so. And she goes, oh, yeah, that asshole. And I go, oh, boy. And we're looking at each other in the mirror, face to face. And I can't go nowhere. So she goes, what's your analogy? And I'm like, well, he said police officers need less training than cosmetologists. And she goes, well, my brother's a cop. And I go, oh, boy. And she got my hair in her hands, y'all. She got my hair in her hands. We're not going nowhere. And the point of the story is that I almost didn't say anything. She said her brother's a cop, but don't worry, he's a good cop. I'm never going to forget that. He's a good cop. Trust me, I know. I wish they could just see it from the other side, from our side. She's looping me in now to us, so that's a problem. And she kept saying the word good, as if your goodness absolves you from, acting on white supremacy or racism or sexism, right? If you're good and you go to church on Sundays and you take out the trash when you're supposed to and you get A's, you can't be racist, right? We need to all let loose of that, right? Like when men are confronted with rape culture, well, I'm a good guy, right? Like we need to stop the idea that your goodness absolves you of being called out. And so I almost didn't say something, which is also an important part of the story, which is why I'm calling myself out. It would have been a much more comfortable haircut experience, which is how I parent for myself, to not say anything. And I was asking her questions for 2 reasons. One, to find out, what do you believe? I don't know you. I'm trying to figure out how am I supposed to approach this conversation if I do engage. And second, to buy myself time. And the thing that popped into my head that made my decision for me was I was a neutral enough figure for her to feel comfortable to make that comment around me. She wouldn't have said that around somebody black or visibly brown, right? And so I had a responsibility in that moment. And so if something gets said around you, you have a responsibility in that moment to interrupt it. And then you have to, come to terms with how much risk you're willing to take. See, I've come to peace with that. There are certain things I die for. Point blank, period. It wasn't always that way. But then you don't say anything and you go home and you live, you die a different way anyway. So here we go. The Howard Dylan Roof sat in a church, and I think that if we do intervene more, that is part of the work that we all can do. The Howard Dylan Roof sat in the church. By now you know their names, their cheekbones, the tender hands they offered when you walked in. You know the quivering strength of prayer, the art of making God listen, how faith can summon weary backbones into pyramids, and you know that grace still lives in a church that's had to rebuild itself before, a church that has cleaned more blood off the walls more than you have ever fantasized of. That is to say, you are not the first white boy to feel small and create chaos in someone else's home. This church is old, much older than you. Where is the audacity of freshly coated white paint, as if to say any ill that smudges us will be for all to see? Did you hear the echoes when you walked in? Did you feel the pastor soothe the trepidatious voices of those ghosts burnt and hung in the name of better days? So they opened their song for you, shared in head nod and Bible verse, not knowing they let in what they spent so much time praying out, tucked away nearly 400 years of lessons on what it means to let a white man get too close. See, all the bullets in all the world belong to them. And yet doors softened for you. What an unearned miracle. Do you know what it means to welcome in a familiar terror and hope it got enough God on it this time to leave you be? Is there some word greater than noble? Your predecessors hid their faces, threw Molotov cocktails from afar, but your ugly is the kind that gets to know what it's about to kill. In that hour, were you studying them like elk? Were you surprised when they prayed for you even as you prayed on them? Did they greet you with too many come-on-ins? Did you imagine abandoned prayers? Did your teeth clench when they said, God forgives you? Did your jaw tighten when they said, bless your heart? Did their soft voices almost provoke the rage out of you? Did you wonder how the hell they were still standing? Did you wonder why God hadn't made good on the fire next time? Did your skin itch when the congregation said your name like it was worth keeping? Did you look at their hands, the folds of their skin? Did you panic then? Did you forget who the animal was? Did your feet become hoofed, your back sporting a new tail? Did the gun begin to rattle? Did the heavy metal fever and sweat in the script get hazy? Did you forget your lines? Is that when you almost walked out? How many crosses did you have to burn in your head to remember what you came for? How many of their names did you have to unlearn? Did your hands turn black after you threw your gun down? Did the bullets pull themselves out of their skin and chase you out? Is that why you ran? Why you could stay for Bible study, but not to see what music God still offers the dead to keep them warm? Did you hear your father say, good job, son? Did you hear America whisper, good job, son? Did you hear every history textbook write your name? Did you wink at the police when they searched your pockets? Did you say, hey, brother? Did they say, hey, back? When you realized they were enjoying you, was it then that you shot them all? Was it then that you couldn't say you enjoyed them too? When you see God, will he tell you how bad you smell? Will you say, you already know? A stench like this isn't made overnight, y'all. It takes a whole lot of hands and much longer than an hour.